Brad, you recording?
Yep.
Danny, you recording?
Let me double check. I'm recording. I've been recording for 3.5 minutes.
Beck, you recording?
Yeah.
Vaughn, am I recording? Yeah, I'm recording.
Hell yeah.
See, we got content now.
Now we got content.
All right, so let's get started. So, as you guys know, the cold open is very important. Okay, Vaughn, go ahead and say something really funny right now.
All right. So, let me tell you about work.
All right.
I don't watch movies there.
Okay.
So it's unrelated.
Right. This is shit already. Okay. All right. I don't think you guys get this, but it's pretty important. I was doing research, and the 3 most important things for a podcast are the name, which...
Yeah, we've been
Work in
stewing,
progress,
so
yeah.
we at least know that it is.
Hey, I really like Ohm, because we can use the Omega symbol, and y'all know how much I like those.
You know you like it. Right now. We'll talk about the name when we actually bring it up. Well, the other part are our hosts, which we see how that went, and then the cold open. So no pressure. But say something funny. Back 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh God.
All right. That's about how I thought of it. All right.
All right, wait.
Now there's a
Time out.
cry.
Ezra's me, dude.
Yeah.
That was Ezra listening to this audio right now.
All right. I forgot
The
what
cold
movie we were
open.
starting
3,
with.
2, 1, go, Danny.
We're not done with the cold open, Vaughn. Brad, you want to take a shot
No,
at this?
fuck. I want the cold
Damn,
open
Don't throw
to
me
tie
in.
in.
This is the cold open. Was me throwing you guys under the bus. Brad, say something funny. Go.
No thanks.
All right, great.
It's not a
Great.
very good cold
10
open.
out of 10.
It's
I'm
not
glad
a
I
great
quit my
bit.
job. I'm glad I quit my job to podcast full time. So,
Same here.
well, Brad actually did. Oh no. All right.
Yeah, we have 2 people who are actually full-time podcasters now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so this is where the theme music will go, or if we don't have any theme music, I'll just record
I'll
Ezra
put some
singing.
theme music in.
I'll just record Ezra singing "Happy Birthday" or something.
I just thought we played the theme music in. God.
All right. Okay, so back from the theme song. So welcome everyone. This is sorry, just get out. This is over.
I was gonna say usually you introduce yourself and then the theme song happens.
Yeah. Our cold
Probably
open
cold
was
open.
just you putting a lot of people on the spot and us shutting you down.
I was entertained.
And you were the only one,
glad.
and the same will go for our listeners.
And that's podcasting, baby.
Listener, sorry.
Listen, my mom will like it.
Oh, there's my little boy Danny.
Okay, so this is over under Hype Machine. My name is Danny.
I'm Beck.
I'm Vaughn.
I'm Brad.
We're going to take a look at movies and specifically looking at movies that are highly or lowly rated and try to take a look at whether they live up to their reputations that they're given. Our first movie here is going to be Citizen Kane, mostly because I thought it'd be really funny to title a podcast, Is Citizen Kane Overrated?
So I'm really glad I'm part of this podcast for the first episode because I know literally nothing about Citizen Kane. I know the ending. I know the twist ending, which is kind of my bit. I only ever know twist endings to movies, and that's why I don't watch them.
I like that. That's your thing, is you don't know anything about the movie, but you know how it ends, so it's pointless for you to watch it.
Yes. Yeah.
So I guess I should preface this by saying another part of this podcast is the fact that Beck and I are kind of more casual film fans. We don't watch a whole lot of movies.
Casual is
whereas,
an understatement.
Vaughn and Brad are our designated nerds.
I would say that Danny is a casual film fan, and I am, oh God, please don't put on a movie.
I prefer the term kinophile.
Oh boy.
Jesus, we're canceled already.
You know, file is just a Latin word for good. Well, fucking.
Listen, I wasn't making a joke on that. That was Danny. That was
Brad,
all
what kind
Danny.
of file do you identify as?
None. I guess I would just call myself more of just a movie fan. Enthusiastic, to say the least. But
I was going to say, how many movies have you watched this year?
This year, not that many. In 2020, I think it was over 400, 415, I think, somewhere in there.
Jesus, you could not pay me.
So more than
Yet.
one movie a day.
Listen, to the listeners, if you pay me enough, I'll watch 400 movies.
You hearing that, Mom?
You hearing that, Danny's mom?
The only person listening to this right now.
The only person listening to this. That's fair. I could get my sisters to watch it, maybe.
Yeah, she'll probably. She might get this far. I could see her getting this far, maybe.
Yeah, just about this far. Like, hey, she mentioned me, and then cut.
That's how you get her in. I enjoy how Brad identifies himself as a slightly enthusiastic film fan, yet has watched more than one movie a day for the past year.
Jesus.
Yeah, I think it's math works out to like 1.1 or 1.2 or something like that, but...
That's slightly enthusiastic film fan Brad for you.
I love The Craft, what can I say?
Yeah.
The movie The Craft.
It's an okay movie.
I love that movie, actually. That's a good movie.
I still have to see it. They just released a sequel.
Yeah, okay, then
don't.
The Craft is what I was thinking of. And, don't! I thought it was good. Was it not good?
Yeah, I thought so too.
Oh.
No, it definitely not as good as the original.
That's really
I would probably say
So,
skip it.
Citizen Kane.
That is disappointing.
Oh well.
Yeah, so Citizen Kane is a movie. It is referred to as the first modern movie, if I remember correctly.
Which is why I think it's funny to ask, is it's overrated? Because it's like, what does that even mean? Like, how is that even relevant when you're talking about what is the Bible of movies?
So should I give a breakdown of what the movie's about and like who's directed by who stars in it?
Yeah.
All right, so Citizen Kane, directed by Orson Welles, starring Orson Welles, written by Orson Welles.
All right.
We'll get to
it's
that.
Other people, yes. I understand it's multiple people, but I
didn't know that. Yeah.
The rule of three.
Yeah, that was a good bit. It was very funny. Good job. I'm proud of you.
My favorite part is the part where we rate every bit immediately afterwards.
Good bit, Danny. So I don't know if I already said it because it was released on September 5th, 1941. As Google has in its blurb section, when a reporter is assigned to decipher newspaper magnate Charles Foster Kane's, Orson Welles, dying words, his investigation gradually reveals the fascinating portrait of a complex man who rose from obscurity to staggering heights. Though Kane's friend and colleague Jebediah Leland, played by Joseph Cotton, and his mistress, Susan Alexander, played by Dorothy Comingore, shed fragments of light on Kane's life. The reporter fears he may never penetrate the mystery of the elusive man's final word, Rosebud.
Wow, I fell asleep already.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, even the fucking description is long.
So I think that's good. I don't want any more details of that for now.
Really makes me amped to watch
I was gonna say, we probably should have mentioned this earlier. What we're going to be doing is doing a kind of pre-watch discussion. So we're going to go over kind of our familiarity with the movie. Some of us have seen it, some of us haven't, and we're going to kind of...
And some of us know the twist ending and nothing else.
Some of us have heard of the twist ending and nothing else. We're going to kind of go over our impressions based on... Because again, we're supposed to be looking at this based on the popular consensus of these films. So what have we heard? What do you know about this movie? Is it supposed to be amazing? Are there weird things you've heard about it? And kind of talking about our general impressions before even seeing the movie, or maybe even seeing it recently if you've seen it before.
Well, I haven't seen it since like 2012 when I had to watch it for film appreciation. But I mean, I remember just like finding it boring and like overhyped. That's
all right. That's the show.
There we go. That's.
But like, I understand why. Like from what I remember, like I understand why it gets the hype it does, because it is like one of the first movies that implement modern day film techniques. When those were like movies were very static or very unoriginal in that format. Mm-hmm. Also, I was excited about it because Orson Welles' voice is my favorite Transformer ever. So, totally down. Unicron,
Vaughn was just
baby.
waiting for the Transformers to show up the whole time.
Yeah.
I was like, God, this is fucking boring. Where's Optimus Prime?
Orson Welles as whatever he just said that Transformers name was, Ultron or something.
Okay.
Unicron.
That's the only reason why he joined the podcast.
So you just
Yeah,
bring
that
my
sounds
Transformers lore in?
Yeah, I think this is gonna end up. I think this movie is gonna be like. I'm thinking about like how it was when I first read Beowulf in high school, where it's like, yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's.
You see, now you're in my part.
Yeah,
of
now
town.
I read that book and I was like, oh god, this is so boring. And it's not that it's bad; it's just that it's a story you've heard 1,000 times.
It's the story that, like, it's the baseline to what everything else is built off of. And so everything else has branched off of it and improved upon it. So going back and watching the original can feel kind of lackluster, a bit anticlimactic, because it's not the climax, it's the
absolutely.
beginning.
And I think
It's the journey of how we got there.
Yeah.
the Citizen Kanes we made along the way. It's. I think one thing I remember about
Good bit,
Beowulf
Danny.
is the whole time I had to like stop myself from thinking, "Oh God, this is so cliche," and which is a weird thing to think about. Like, I guess it's cliche, but like it wasn't when it did it.
I made an essay, I wrote an essay based upon that fact, and my professor short-circuited.
Yeah, I think that's kind of fair because then again, like the whole premise of is Citizen Kane overrated? It's like, what the fuck does that? What's that like? Same thing with Beowulf. Like, is it overrated? Like, yeah, sure, but like, that's not the point. You don't watch it in film history because it's a good movie. You watch it because it was the first one.
And, it could be a good movie. Yeah. I don't know.
That was
all I know is about the sled.
That was the other thing I was gonna say is I actually think I will enjoy this. I kind of expect to enjoy it.
I will say that I'm a pretentious piece of shit,
and I feel like that's exactly who this is.
So
for.
I probably would like
that's
it.
That's why Brad likes it so much.
Fair.
We throw under the bus. I will say that I will probably enjoy it because my taste is refined.
Well, how old were you when you last watched it?
I was like 16, 17.
Yeah, so I don't imagine a 16, 17-year-old enjoying Citizen Kane. But I feel like we all will. So, Brad, what are your thoughts?
So, Brad.
So, yeah, I think I'm the only one of us who has seen Citizen Kane recently. I watched it a couple months ago in preparation for the David Fincher film Mank to be released on Netflix. I'd like to think of myself as someone who's seen like a lot of classic movies, but for whatever reason, I just never seen Citizen Kane. And once Mank was announced with David Fincher directing, I figured that this was as good a time as any to jump in.
For those who don't know, can you explain why Citizen Kane has significance to Mank?
Sure. So the movie Mank is telling the story of Herman J. Mankiewicz, who was a screenwriter, contemporary of Orson Welles, who wrote at least part of the screenplay for Citizen Kane. And the thing that's significant about, the thing that I really like about Mank is that it was written by David Fincher's father, Jack Fincher, and explores the kind of the authorship question of Citizen Kane, which is one of the topics, a hotly debated topic in American film criticism and has been since its release. Obviously, the most famous text on the authorship question is Raising Cain, the essay by Pauline Kael, which we'll be discussing in the later half of the episode, because I have thoughts. And yeah, so I think that you guys, I'm spoiler alert, fully going to come down on the side of this movie's not
I think it's
not
fair,
overrated.
Probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's as good as everyone says, just because, one, of how revolutionary it was, with its camera work, cinematography, the editing. I mean, you look down, the below the line people on this thing is insane. Like Bernard Herrmann, who was one of the famous composers of that era. Greg Toland does the cinematography. Robert Wise was the editor on the film, and both Greg Toland and Robert Wise was going to become like celebrated directors in their own right. Orson Welles made this when he was
Holy
23 years old.
Jesus.
Oh God, what are we doing?
23.
This.
He produced, directed, and starred in
Do you
it.
guys think this will be the Citizen Kane of podcasts?
God, I hope
He was
not.
the original Tommy
Guys, are we
Wiseau.
going to ruin podcasts by this being the Citizen Kane of podcasts?
I don't know whether I
Maybe.
hope so or if I really hope not.
But yeah, the thing that I definitely want to emphasize about Citizen Kane to you guys before you watched it is just how I know one of the main complaints for watching movies from this era, black and white, 40s, 50s, is that they're slow. And this movie really isn't. The script is so tight and it moves from scene to scene so, I don't want to say
It's
quickly.
not wasting time.
But, right, and the pacing is a lot more akin to modern films than it is, I think, to its contemporaries.
So 2001.
Oh, yeah, it's it's the tortoise and the hare with 2001 in this movie.
Guy slowly moving forward for half an hour.
Fortunately, no, but it's beautiful to look at. Greg Toland's cinematography and the way that he uses shadow is just. It's great to look at. The film moves, and I think it's aged great. Obviously, there's some, artifacts of the time period. For one thing, this is about a newspaper magnet,
What's
which
that?
we no longer have. but overall, I think watchability still there. So I'm really excited for you
I'm
to
really
check
excited
this
to
out.
get into it. I think I want to, assuming I don't hate it, which I would really be surprised if I do, I probably will also try to watch that Mank. Because that sounds really interesting as well.
Agreed.
Yeah, Mank was great as well. I really like it. So
I will say I've been shit talking movies this entire time and making myself out to hate movies. I do genuinely like movies and like art house movies especially and historical movies especially.
The other day you spent the night.
I just don't watch a lot
I came
of
downstairs and you were sitting in the exact spot that you were when I went upstairs. And you just looked at me with dead eyes and said, "I watched 4 art house movies tonight." So
yeah,
I know there's a film fan in there.
and honestly, like 2 of them were good. Well, that's half, and that's
our
2
house
out of
movies.
4, and not bad.
We're gonna find that out when we do
true.
the Lighthouse.
I gotta tell you, I don't remember most of it.
I mean, yeah, you
That
should have
night.
been sleeping. So, but yeah, I don't know if we have anything else to add. I think now, unless anyone else has any other last minute thoughts, now might be a good time to cut to the post-movie discussion, post-watch discussion.
Yeah, well, we probably need to watch the movie before we do post-watch discussion.
Well, yes, that's thanks, Beck. No, let have the movie beamed into our brains now. That was good, guys. Alright, so after a brief intermission, we will be back and we'll have some, preferably, already lukewarm takes on the movie Citizen Kane.
I'm sure.
God, I'm always lukewarm. I'm ready.
All right, this is where the ads go.
Yes.
Hell yeah, we're gonna have so many ads.
Before I forget, I would like to, after we talk about the movie, I would like to do a trivia section. I would just like to talk about some interesting trivia.
Okay, yeah, that sounds
of the
fun.
movie.
I like that.
There's actually I was looking at this list of trivia, and there's actually one that stuck out to me the most because I, like most people, learned about Orson Welles through War of the Worlds. And there's actually a line where it's where he says to somebody while winking, "Don't trust everything you hear on the radio," which is fucking phenomenal. If that's a reference
when
to,
was this?
I think this is a good.
Can we
reference.
get an
I like
actual
it. I'm
year
salty.
standpoint?
I mean, Orson Welles wasn't exactly the most modest
It was 19...
Especially because people still make that reference.
Yeah, I mean, he knew how good he was. I'll say that. So, but that's funny. I didn't even pick up on that when I watched it recently.
That was 1938 that Orson Welles did that, so, 30 years before Kane.
Because I've heard that, don't trust everything you hear on TV, don't trust everything that you hear on the internet. I've heard it in that exact, tone.
Right.
My entire life, and everybody has. And I don't even think that everybody realizes that they're referencing that.
I think that is, if, again, there's, something that goes to show, it created a trope. That is... Yeah. If that is literally him, writing about, how I fucking got him with War of the Worlds, that is, the best, wink. Such a smug bastard.
Post-watch discussion is going to be listing all the tropes he invented.
That's what half the trivia section is.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh my god.
It's they did this for the first time, and this for the first time, and this for the first time.
And that's the thing that I'm actually, really interested in with the podcast is what part of these movies are just consciousness, just social consciousness at this point. Everybody knows this reference. Everybody can, this character is dying, so let's have him say Rosebud. Even though we're in Madagascar.
Well, I think that Citizen Kane especially is one of those movies that kind of exists in the public consciousness as being a capital G great movie.
Yeah.
And people are like, Citizen Kane,
never seen
good
it,
movie.
But it's a good movie.
But
yeah.
Right. And there's actually, especially nowadays, comparatively little talk of the actual content of the movie other than it's good.
Yeah.
Which I think is really unfortunate because I think there's a lot, as I hope you guys will see, there's a lot to dig into here.
Hell yeah.
Especially regarding the context,
I'll actually
take notes.
And all the other players in the Citizen Kane story. So I'm excited to dig into that. I don't want to say too much more until you guys have seen it.
I'll bring this up when we start recording this, the trivia and whatnot. But so, Citizen Kane is based off of a real person. William Randolph Hearst.
Well, oh boy, here we go. So it's actually primarily based on William Randolph Hearst, and also Orson Welles was from Kenosha, Wisconsin. So a lot of the mannerisms of Kane is based on Hearst. I believe Joseph Pulitzer as well, and then also some local Chicago titans of industry, as it were, at the time. So he's kind of a blend.
I specifically say Hearst is because Hearst actually tried getting the movie to never air. He did his best to get Orson Welles to never release the film, even so much as in the 40s and 50s calling Orson Welles a communist.
Oh my god. Okay, so is this movie, is it pro-capitalist Citizen Kane, or is it a bit commie?
Is it a bit commie?
Because I don't know that.
If it's not a bit commie, I'm not interested.
That's true.
I would definitely say it's satirical of the political system.
All right.
But I don't know if it's it's certainly not a leftist film. I mean,
leftist films in my 40s.
It's
right.
So
you
much
can go to the
less
Soviet
likely
Union
than-
and dig some of that
next
up.
episode
But
is going to be the Citizen Kane of Soviet Russia.
yeah, my 4-hour solo Battleship Potemkin pod. I'm ready. I'm ready to talk. But yeah, I would say that there's. Like I said, I really don't want to get too into it until you guys see it.
Mm-hmm.
But you can make an argument that there is kind of like a
critique,
more of a left-leaning interpretation, but there's
Okay.
also maybe an objectivist interpretation too.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of
yeah.
I don't expect it to be extremely left,
Yeah.
but is it critiquing this magnate, or is it
Yes.
supporting him.
No, we'll save it.
I
We'll save it.
I just don't really imagine it as like a super political film, but based off my
it's really not.
Which
I feel like it kind of, at least to an extent, has to be when you're working with that main character. But of course, I don't know. I don't know the story.
Yeah, I would say that the political aspects of the story are kind of they're important, but they're more on the periphery to the study of Kane, rather than being kind of like the main impetus of the plot. Okay. So they're in there, but it's definitely not the focus, I would say.
And I guess we'll find out after this ad break.
I already cut to ad break a while ago. Hi, I'm Vaughn, podcast startup sensation. Today I'd like to let you know about a new podcast I'm starting with my good friend. Can I introduce you now?
Yes, you can!
I'll be partnering with Shia LaBeouf to review a wonderfully directed series, but before I get to...
No! What are you waiting for?
Fine. We're going to review the Transformers saga. Look, Shia, if you're going to keep being angry with me all the time, I don't know if I can do this. We've already had to restart this 5 times.
If you're tired of starting over, stop giving up.
I'm not giving up. Look, let's just do this tomorrow.
Yesterday, you said tomorrow.
I know, but working with you is damn near impossible sometimes.
Nothing is impossible!
Why do you want to do this podcast?
Some people dream of success.
Alright, can we take 5, guys? I need some water. Welcome back from that. We have now watched Citizen Kane. It's great.
It only took us like a few, however long that break was.
Minutes! It took a few minutes to watch Citizen Kane.
I got the Spark Notes.
It was downloaded into our brains.
Yeah.
If only movies were that simple.
I would probably like them if they were that simple.
I got the idea. Black and white guy, a big guy, kind of a big shot.
Big guy, big shot.
Big guy for you.
For you.
That'll be a reference to the conversation we had before we started recording. For you kids at home.
My mom will figure it out.
I'm a Bane poster. People will know. Alright, so, but yeah, I'm gonna say it out of the way, like, as a joke, said, like, Citizen Kane was overrated, because watching it once in high school, I was like, this movie's black and white and boring. Yeah. And now, like, watching it, like, actually as a film watcher, I'm like, holy shit, this movie is amazing.
Yeah, it was astounding.
One of my big things is, like, I'm gonna be that guy, like, a lot of old movies I find to be boring. Yeah. Not because, like, they're old and black and white, so that must make them boring. It's just, like, just the way they're handled are very static, in my opinion.
Yeah, and they tend to be slow-paced.
And Citizen Kane, while was, like, not dynamic and, like, people doing actiony things, just, like, the story and the dialogue was just so tight and entertaining that, like, fuck, I was entertained the whole way.
Yeah, absolutely. It was...
Also, Monkey. First thing I see is
Same.
Monkey.
Okay.
I went back over my notes and saw that my first note was Monkey. And I crossed that out because I thought it was irrelevant and that I didn't actually want to say it on the podcast. So I'm glad that you brought it up instead, Vaughn.
It's the first thing I wrote down, so I was going to say it.
And we have now spent far too long talking about it, so that's cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. I think it was surprising how modern the movie feels. Like, it really is. Like I said, I was expecting it to, while be good still, like, feel very old and probably slow and something I wouldn't want to watch. But, like, it really is, feels very modern. A lot of things in it seem impressive. And then there were something I want to talk about eventually is how the things actually seem even better than modern movies, I think, with, like, the way they talked. And
yeah, because they still had that, like, that fast-paced, snappy, clever dialogue that they used to have there.
Yeah, their dialogue, the people talking over each other felt very, like, it was weird to see, because that's not something you ever see. Like, it wasn't everyone's quiet while you're talking. It was, like, people talking, like, real people.
Yeah. And that's
Like people, especially at people at a workplace would be talking, where it's like everyone's saying their own thing, and you're gonna pick up bits and pieces.
and
of
I'd say
it.
that's generally how like old
Yes.
movies worked.
Yeah, so I think things felt really authentic in a way that you don't see in even modern movies, which was really interesting.
I would also say that it's also the dialogue was a lot more produced whilst having the a more authentic conversation style while still having a produced way of their dialogue being.
Well, that's actually, it's funny thing, because a lot of the actors, this was their first filmed debut, but a lot of them were actually professional stage actors. So they would know how to do, like, produced dialogue, which I thought was really cool.
I wonder if, I'm interpreting that also, because they do talk, how you expect yieldy 40s people to talk. And
That's just how conversations work.
It's not.
That's, it definitely, it sounds, the way they speak is different from what it is today. And I don't know if that's even, if that part is authentic. Maybe that part I'm just kind of reading as, oh yeah, that seems right, because that's how people in the 40s probably sounded.
That's how they talked in movies.
Well, let's just get in our time machine.
Yeah, or that might just be how they talked in movies, and that, that's our interpretation
I've seen, outtakes.
How we think they talk. And
from those days, and when they break character, it's weird how much they are like us.
I love 40s and 50s black and white movie era outtakes, because it's almost taboo forbidden stuff. It's the footage you weren't meant to see.
We aren't supposed to know that they're people.
Look at these stoic actors who are role models, acting like the everyday Dick and Jane. It's so cool.
Have you guys ever seen the it's an outtake from an Alfred Hitchcock movie. It might be Strangers on a Train. I don't remember which one. But Alfred Hitchcock makes a "That's What She Said" joke. It's quite funny.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
History.
Okay,
so I wanted to
we should get back to the movie.
Before I forget, so we're all talking about how great this movie is. You know who also really loved this movie? The Vatican. It is in their top 45 movies of all time.
I wonder why.
But on the inverse, you know who hated this movie? The 1941 Academy Awards. It got 9 nominations, and at each nomination, it got booed.
Oh my god.
It got booed.
It got booed at every instance it was referenced.
Holy shit.
That's surprising. See, I was wondering, because I was looking up, doing some research too, and from what I could tell, it seemed like most critics thought very well of the movie and kind of tell it was pretty amazing for its time, other than the people who were too scared of William Randolph Hearst.
Yes.
Who the movie is based on.
Partly.
The real life version, partly, but seems to be the main inspiration for Charles Kane.
Yes. Actually, funny you bring up Hearst. So on the night, the very night of the release, Orson Welles and Hearst happened to be in the same elevator.
Oh no!
And Welles' father was a friend of Hearst, or friends of Hearst's father. They had connections through their parents, and Orson Welles, as a sign of good faith, offered 2 tickets to Randolph Hearst, saying, "Hey, I understand there's bad blood. You're trying to not get my movie out, but would you like to see it?" And as the elevator opened, apparently he scoffed and walked off, declining it. And Orson Welles said after him, "Charles Foster Kane would have accepted."
Oh my god. What a nerd.
I was what yeah, my fictional idealization of you would have.
Yeah, I just imagine somebody saying that about their character now. We would be like, wow, what a fucking nerd. And not just a nerd, but an egotistical nerd. But he pulls it off.
Yeah.
Yes, but I mean, the thing is, it's a good fucking dig.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Hearst is trying to ruin Orson Welles' life. This movie almost failed because because he just didn't want it to come
Actually,
out.
there's a rumor that
It kind of did.
There's a story that never got proved to be true that to scandalize Wells, Hearst hired a woman and a photographer to hide in his hotel room. The woman would jump on Wells naked as soon as he opened the door, and a photographer would take pictures of him.
Yeah, I was reading that too. It wasn't just a woman; it was like a 14.
Oh my god.
Oh, I didn't hear that part.
Wow.
I didn't read
Yeah,
that part.
and also to be fair, Wells apparently said that this was some reporter who did that, hoping that if he pulled it off, it would help him move up in Hearst's company in the newspaper.
Yeah.
So. Which seems believable. Maybe that seems weird that Hearst would actually go that far to something that not a great scheme.
Yeah,
I
feel like if
people,
somebody threw themselves at me, I wouldn't look like I was caught up in a scandal. I would be horrified.
Well, it doesn't. But all you need is one picture of Wells in a hotel room,
Naked 14-year-old,
and he literally going to jail. That was the point, was to try to send him to jail.
Yeah, this is the same guy who told people hey, Orson Welles is a communist in 1940.
Oh boy.
Yeah, but something else I thought was interesting is that a company tried to buy the movie from RKO Pictures. Tried to give them $800,000 to destroy all the film and burn the negatives.
Holy shit.
Yes.
Which I think is just really interesting. Because just imagine if they took that deal. What would films look like today? Would they even be anywhere near the same?
Danny, did you find an explanation as to why they wanted to do that? I'm just curious.
It was a company owned by Hearst.
Ah, okay.
Because I read that too.
I'm surprised that they haven't ever made a movie off of this, because there was Mank that was about writing it, but did they touch on any of this drama?
No, Mank does not. Mank is pretty much solely concerned with the writing process for the script.
In the research I was doing, I think I saw that there was some Netflix show that went into the drama of Citizen Kane. Let me see if I can.
That alone sounds like a good watch.
You're thinking of Mank 2.
Electric Boogaloo?
Yeah, that's the one. Tom Holland plays Herman J. Mankiewicz.
I'm just finding Mank though. That's all I'm finding when I tried to look it up. So maybe I thought I read something here in the Wikipedia article.
I will say one of my favorite parts about the movie was how well the makeup department did on oldifying Wells.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I didn't even think
crap.
that. I thought that they had gotten a different actor until you said, "Wow, those prosthetics," and I was like, "Those are prosthetics?"
It's amazing. It's holy shit! I did not know makeup was that good back then.
Absolutely.
Now that we're about 15 minutes into this, maybe we should go over an actual kind of synopsis of the movie and kind of go from there.
Has your mom watched Citizen Kane?
My mom's definitely watched it.
We don't need it.
Yeah, she if our sole audience is your mother, she knows what the movie's about.
That's true. My mom knows, but we should remind her.
Right.
And in fact, when I told her about it, she was pretty excited. She wants to be on the podcast. I definitely want her on, but then we won't have anyone to listen to it. But
maybe she likes the sound of her own voice.
Yeah, maybe she'll still listen to it. Then I'll have her on under the agreement that she will still listen to it.
Make sure to get it in writing.
Okay, I mean, I
can retain our audience.
Yeah, I could always just play it for my dogs while I'm in the other room doing something.
Yeah,
I can make my mom listen.
Make sure,
to it
you wouldn't dare listen to it yourself. But I was just kind of gonna give a quick word on just this movie is kind of just about a man who's bigger than life.
Charles Foster Kane.
Sometimes quite literally.
Literally one of the biggest guys on set.
A huge man, bigger literally and figuratively.
Vaughn thought he was on stilts, and then he started walking, and his knees were in the right place. He's so tall.
Yeah, that was mind blowing. Oh my god, this is just pure camera working. That
camera working.
This guy is literally just
and a very tall man.
Oh, actually, I know you're trying to do a synopsis. It's funny. He actually learned this technique from watching Stagecoach. That he had actually mastered the technique because he watched it 40 times during the production of Citizen Kane.
Goddamn.
Stagecoach.
Because Stagecoach, to make the heroes more powerful than everyone else, is they would record them from below, and everyone else they record from above to make them look smaller.
Yeah, that's like what they did with Lord of the Rings.
Actually, the only two people in this movie where the camera is face up is Kane and his friend. Everyone else the camera is aimed down at because they are weaker than these two people.
Interesting.
Great little fact. But yeah, Charles Foster Kane is an enigmatic person. He has Xanadu, the largest property of land in New York, housing almost two of every known animal.
Florida.
Was it Florida? I thought
Yeah,
it said New York.
Well, because remember this. Oh, hold on. We're going a little Tarantino. We're going out of order. But that scene at the end when they go camping in like the Everglades or whatever.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Well, it's not important. But please continue. I'm sorry.
No, my bad. I didn't write down where the location was. I was going off the top of my head.
Honestly, I don't think that the location is even all that important, if not for the absurdity of the set.
Yeah, it's like 100. I think they said 154 acres or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think it's important that we really nail down where it was.
I just really love the line, biggest private zoo since Noah.
Let's just vote on it. New York, Florida?
Guys, we're never going to get
New
through
York.
the synopsis.
It's much more absurd. It's much more absurd to be up north.
That's true. I have a castle in the middle of New York.
Exactly. I like that. That sounds like something a rich asshole would do.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely in Florida, but he spent most of his, before he built it in New York.
Yeah. Let's talk about that fucking fireplace, though. Am I right?
You are right.
God. All right,
Okay, somebody actually do a synopsis.
Alright, so yeah. Charles Foster Kane was adopted by... I didn't write his fucking name down. Was adopted and raised by a very wealthy man, and once he was an adult, he was given all these options of wealthy businesses, but he turned them all down except for a small newspaper company.
Because he thought running a newspaper would be fun.
And yes, he had no idea what to do. He just wanted to run a newspaper company.
And also, he made up most of it.
Yeah, where he was turned into a giant yellow journalist, just making up things, literally fabricating a war with Spain.
It was Cuba.
To quote the movie, "You give me the pros, I'll give you the war."
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the understanding there is that he wanted the newspaper company basically just to fuck with Thatcher, the man who adopted him was a surrogate
Thatcher,
father.
that's the name.
Basically just to run it however he wanted and make up whatever headlines he wanted, and the entire time just pissing off Thatcher with every headline and just living and stewing in it. Kind of like a petty teenager, basically. But
which makes sense, because he was right out of college.
Yeah,
right out of several colleges.
But, with just this giant newspaper.
Which reminds me, Orson Welles, king of the shit-eating grin.
Ugh.
Yes, that's true. But through this yellow journalism, he was then able to kind of build up this empire where he's basically controls media throughout the United States, controls all the newspapers.
It comes up with these principles that like, I won't be a shitty person, and here are my vows.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, vows. Guess what happens?
These vows that he gives to his best friend.
It's funny.
Eventually sends it back to spit in his face. He then literally tears up.
The thing is that he starts off with these principles, but he starts off with these principles when he's already a yellow journalist, as he said. He's already lying. What are these principles that he's saying?
Working for the common man.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that, is he ever working for the common man? And indeed, does he ever really stop? The thing that makes him send the principles back to him is that he starts, touting his wife and saying what a good singer she was and lying about it. But what's the difference?
As a spoiler alert, she isn't.
But yeah, through this movie, we learn of... Well, really, what we're doing is following these reporters after Charles Kane's death as they're trying to get to the bottom of his final words, Rosebud, and what these words mean.
Another
But
interesting
while they're trying
fact.
to hunt down. Sure, go ahead.
No, I'm saving my interesting facts so I can like weed them into the synopsis. In the beginning of the movie, when they're like doing the newsreel and it shows the dark room of all the reporters talking about like who's gonna go investigate Rosebud, that is the entire male cast, and Orson Welles included.
Oh,
That's why they don't show anyone's faces.
That is really interesting.
That's interesting. But they're trying to hunt down the meaning of Rosebud. Basically, it sounds like just to kind of get a really good story. And what I think is interesting is, meanwhile, while they're hunting down, trying to figure out what Rosebud means, they end up uncovering this whole story of this man's life, this man who's larger than life, learning so many things about him from all the people closest to him. And the whole time, as they're telling what basically is the movie Citizen Kane, they're just uninterested because all they really care about is figuring out what Rosebud means, which eventually leads them to this futile effort where they get to the end of the movie and still have no idea.
Yeah, they let
means.
the audience in on that fact, but the reporters never find out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they seemingly don't care about all the other interesting things that they find, which I think is really, really funny.
I love it. Like, oh, so you're saying he was obsessed with politics and married this woman out of spite, basically? No, but what about the Rosebud?
Rosebud. And I think it's so funny because, like, what ends up being Citizen Kane, one of the greatest movies ever made, and the whole movie is based around these reporters basically hearing this story firsthand and not giving a shit because they want to know what Rosebud is. Which, I mean, we get to know, but I don't think that's what makes
There is something to be said about that.
Did you know that, it's funny, actually after, like, the movie came out, Orson Welles ended up hating that twist.
Really?
He called it, quote, dollar store Freud.
I can kind of see it, because it is very kind of, like, feels very tacked on at the end.
Yeah. I think it would be better if we never found out.
There was an interesting thing about
the
snow globe that he drops in his dying breath, and he actually finds it in the scene where he's destroying his wife's room after she left, and it's kind of like, why do you have this in your final moment if your final thoughts and your final words have nothing to do with her? Why is this snow globe tied to her?
I have an idea.
Is it just the snow?
It's
tied to the sled to the
because the last
final
time
memory.
Because spoiler alert, Rosebud's his sled. The last scene you see him with his sled is him playing within the snow. But also, my other idea is, since that was her snow globe, and she was younger than him, he saw her as youthful. And since the movie's about him trying to recapture his fleeting youth, is shoehorn that, like, be, like, that snow globe represent her, representing youth.
I don't really buy it.
I can see that.
But I think it's much more the I remember being in a snowy hill with my Rosebud.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like it is also just snow. Like, it's that simple. Like, kind of just reminds him of, again, because like he was saying, the one part before he met his second wife, he was going to try to reclaim his youth, try to find his old things that his mother left behind to try to reclaim part of his youth. But I just want to kind of finish up with just like we're kind of watching this whole movie as we learn this story of this man who, again, at the beginning seemingly claims to have principles at least, and watching kind of his downfall as he rises, becoming bigger and bigger and more of an important figure throughout politics and history. And meanwhile, as he becomes bigger and more powerful, you see him degrade, and which is, I think, kind of a story as old as time of him just becoming a lesser man as he rises in power, until the point where he straight up tears up his own principles, completely abandoning them, and
tears up his ex-wife's bedroom.
Yeah, tears up his ex. So yeah, locks himself and his wife away from the world, just hoarding in his castle of riches, as if that makes him happy. just desperately doing whatever he can to try to reclaim any sense of happiness. And then at the end, you find Rosebud hints to his childhood and hints to the scene where we see his last moment of happiness when he was just an innocent child.
I would really like to say the final scene of the movie before the Rosebud reveal of just like the zoom out of like his whole warehouse worth of shit. Incredible. That's all practical. That was mind blowing. Like, holy crap. The amount of time setting this scene up. Speaking of scenes, we talked about like how if they remade this movie, we'd want at least I would want Leonardo DiCaprio. Speaking of similar things, in the scene where he's tearing up his wife's room out of anger, he actually gashes his hand open during that take.
Oh,
much like a scene where Leonardo DiCaprio also gashed his hand open.
That's true. That's a good point. But I think that's a good trend, just because that's something I want to talk about. Is how, like you said, after you brought that up, I'm like, ooh, I do kind of want a modern remake of this movie.
But then we just saw it's
as much as people will hate that. But yeah, exactly. It's literally just Wolf of Wall Street. And that's what some of the research I was doing before we started talking is like, I'm sure I'm not the first one to make this comparison. And looking it up, I found a few articles, actually not as many as I thought, but a few articles kind of pointing out the comparisons between the two movies. It really is the story of a man who seemingly starts with principles and ethics, and as he
uses fraudulent means.
Yeah, even though he starts with ethics, doesn't really care about the fraud he's committing, and just becomes more and more powerful. You watch him get bigger than life. I watched a video that kind of compared the two scenes. Compared the scene from Citizen Kane where he's at like that dinner party with all his workers, and they have like the circuit,
versus I'm not going.
Versus, the scene in Wolf of Wall Street where they have literally like a circus, a marching band come in, lines of strippers and everything, and all the dancing. And I think it really is just a more modern version of Citizen Kane, whereas Citizen Kane, you have him like the scandalous thing. He gets up there and dances with all the other dancers, and Wolf of Wall Street is much bigger and ridiculous, but
really and Jonah Hill would be his best friend. Yeah, it was a good movie.
Yeah, as he should be. Yeah.
I've actually never seen it.
But like, yeah, like I said, I think watching Citizen Kane made me, with how authentic and modern it felt, that's kind of what I was like, I really want an update of this. But that literally is just Wolf of Wall Street. So I don't think I'm wrong in saying that, because Wolf of Wall Street is a great movie.
Yeah,
I think that's
great
really
movie.
Just the update of just the modern version of this.
But Danny, is Wolf of Wall Street overrated?
We'll get to it.
We'll get to that, I'm sure. Don't spoil it. Brad, is Citizen Kane overrated?
Well, I think that I'm going to stick with my previous position from the first half of the podcast and say, no, it is not overrated. It is rightful in its place among the pantheon of greatest movies ever made. I think that, now that I on my rewatch for the pod, it's so apparent how once you kind of dig a little bit deeper into the movie and notice all the little technical flair and craft that goes into it. Like, I remember when we were all watching it together, and it's, I believe, the first scene after the journalist leaves his office to go to the library, and the librarian opens up that huge door, and the sunlight is shining through that window. And one of you went, "Oh my god!"
I think that all three of us did.
Yeah, I think that was me.
Because it's just so artfully lit, and the cinematography is so strong and inventive. The director of film, the cinematographer, actually asked Orson Welles to let him be like the guy for the movie. Yeah, Greg Toland, who he's a character in himself, and if I remember correctly, he would go on to direct movies too. Actually, I have two, we'll call them Toland tidbits, two little Toland anecdotes. So basically, one was that his trademark style of using strong contrast between like shadows and light was actually a result of him being on a film set or on a shoot rather, and one of his bulbs burning out on one of his lighting rigs. And he liked the way that it looked and decided to like kind of work with that and see what he could do with that sort of restriction, which is, you see a lot of that in Citizen Kane, and especially like that, and he pulls a lot from German expressionist films like Fritz Lang, particular the way that this film is shot, the cinematography and stuff reminds me of M, which if you guys ever want to cover another black and white movie, I think M would be a good pick.
Noted.
And the other Toland tid is that he was apparently incredibly depressed and would drink heavily anytime he wasn't working on a film set. He
and then he'd
publicly
stop while
stated
he's
multiple
working?
times they were the only place that he was happy.
Shit.
I'm looking at his Wikipedia page, and he does look incredibly depressed. I will give you. And yes, he did direct some movies: Wuthering Heights, Westerner, The Outlaw, Ball of Fire, Song of the South, The Bishop's Wife.
Oof.
Uh,
Song
I
of
was
the
about
South.
to say, like,
yeah, I was gonna say.
I think I'd like to see a few of his films, and Wuthering Heights I've read, so I might look into more of his films, but then oof. Song of the South.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that's something else I have in my notes, is the
Alright.
transitions are just insane.
Yeah.
The transitions are so impressive.
All right, here's another. Oh yeah, like the slow fade, so it looks like what's happening in the next scene, like in the background. That was nice.
Mm-hmm.
But like, guys, is Song of the South underrated?
We'll never know, because it'll
Nope,
never come
cut
out
that.
of Disney Vault.
We'll never know.
Yeah, that's a yeah. Thanks for that, Brad. That's real interesting.
Yeah.
Learning about this Greg Toland,
Mm.
and yeah, his work is definitely super impressive. I think
Yeah.
Yeah, and
really is.
the other
one of the highlights.
the other two people that I want to shout out that were below the line on this were Robert Wise, who was the editor. If I remember correctly, he would also go on to make films, direct.
Editors do deserve more love.
Absolutely.
The Body Snatcher.
Oh, he directed the film adaptation of The Sound of Music and The West Side Story.
Shit.
Oh damn.
And
seen
Star
one of
Trek the
those.
Motion Picture?
The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and Star Trek the Motion Picture, the Hindenburg. Yeah,
Good for him.
Good for him.
yeah.
And then also Bernard Herrmann, who wrote the score for Citizen Kane. This is not really like a score heavy movie. I think it definitely like works to set the scene.
Yeah.
It kind of works as a function of the story rather than like, some of the more bombastic scores. I'm thinking like,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh my goodness,
Tron.
Yeah, I don't think there's any points where I really like the score really stood out to me. Though that's something that I don't.
I would say that, like,
I don't generally
it
pick up
definitely
on
supported it, but, like, there's nothing that, stood out to me that I was like, wow, that moment with the music, Like we were with the lighting
No
and
John
the
Williams.
camera work.
Right. I was drawing a blank. I was trying to think of Christopher Nolan's guy, Hans Zimmer, as someone where like the score really like draws attention to
Yeah.
itself. Hans Zimmer popularized the womp, womp, the Inception womp.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like this. And then Herman has composed the score for Psycho, North by Northwest, Vertigo, The Day the Earth Stood Still, Fahrenheit 451, Cape Fear, and Taxi Driver.
Cape Fear?
Yep, and he also did a bunch of TV. So, like I said, I mean, these are the original. I want to point out that it's the 1962 original Cape Fear with Gregory Peck,
Right.
not the Scorsese remake. Although
With
you might
De
wanna-
Niro, right?
Yep. Although Scorsese remake with De Niro, that might be an underrated. Keep that in the back pocket. That's a good movie.
Speaking of,
We'll have to compare and contrast with that one.
It's super impressive that a lot of the main people that worked on this seem to be one of like their first major hits.
Yeah.
Like this is Orson Welles' first full movie.
20
right?
fucking 4.
Yep, this is his first directorial effort. far as I
Yeah.
know.
Like, my God.
Yeah.
That's what you start with? Like, right?
Where do you go when you're at the top?
Yeah.
You become Unicron in Transformers.
Which I think is something we should talk about, is kind of how that perception of it was, because like I said, he wasn't necessarily at the top when it first came out. From what I was reading, at least, it sounded like in most cities they didn't do very well, and it seems like a lot of this has to do with William Randolph Hearst's efforts to like intimidate theaters into not showing this movie, and refuse to let it even be mentioned in any of his newspapers, and just constantly trying to straight up threaten and intimidate people out of allowing this movie to come out. Which I think if it wasn't for him, I feel like it would have been a bigger deal when it came out. Because it, like what I was seeing, it seems like most critics that saw the movie saw it for what it ended up being, is this like amazing piece of art, or this amazing like revolutionary piece of art. But a lot of people didn't see it. Like I read something that Orson Welles in one of the city in Chicago, I believe, the premiere in Chicago was nearly empty.
That's the power of what the old newspaper was like before internet.
Yeah, it's
like,
wild.
People
Like,
relied
we
either on
do
word
not
of
have
mouth,
a frame of reference
and-
for that nowadays.
Yeah. Which I think is also interesting, is that this movie is about Citizen Kane, and the guy it's based off of like kind of lives up to the story, right? Like he literally used his immense power to nearly bury this film criticizing him, which seems very like kind of just proves the whole movie true, right?
Yeah, there's kind of a meta element there. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
the, the fact that like Hearst was like, get this movie banned, and like it just like, oh wow, this art imitates life, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, this is so. You asked Brad, Danny, is this movie overrated?
Probably not. I think it is. It definitely is a very impressive film. Obviously, it's like I said from the beginning, it's cultural and historical significance.
But I'm gonna have to take
have
you take a hotter take on that. Not probably not.
All right, so this movie is shit. I've never seen
yes
anything
or no,
worse.
bud.
Orson
We're not
Welles
making
is
a
a hack.
podcast for
Orson
probably
Welles
not.
is a
Orson Welles, more like Orson Bad.
We're not making a podcast for probably not.
Well,
Take a stance, bud.
Don't worry, we got cats
That's
coming
fair.
up next.
That's
all
fair.
right, we got cats coming up next. Even my mom will hate me after that one.
Don't worry,
but
William Randolph Hearst is gonna hate you now.
yeah, I never seen
The
that.
ghost of Hearst is gonna come on our podcast and be like,
I-
this movie blows.
I did see that. I was also reading that in 2012, the Hearst estate agreed to allow the movie to be shown at one of his castles or something. That thus ending the ban that he had on the movie.
In 2012, you said?
Yeah, like 2012. Yeah.
A 70-year ban.
Yeah, exactly. They agreed to allow it to be shown at like one of his castles or some shit.
And then he rolled in his fucking grave.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. But also, we saw the movie. Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it like obviously it's cultural and historical significance. It can't be underrated. But I think is the interesting thing is, yeah, I think this movie stands up. Like if you were, I don't know if I'd recommend this to just anyone. Certainly any film buff certainly any film buff that's into artsy films. Like, yeah, I think this is probably is a must see based on it is a legitimately good movie and its historical significance.
Yeah, like it's a touchstone even.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, and I think anyone that's just interested in something that's just like a good story, someone that's not necessarily looking for action, is fine for that black and white. Yeah, I would definitely recommend this. It is a legitimately good story. I don't think it is overrated. I think it is. Its significance definitely helps it get there, and it has a good movie to actually back it up.
Vaughn,
you change your opinion.
I'll tell you what my opinion is. Citizen Kane is okay in my book.
Oh, yay! I'm glad that Orson Welles finally got on your good side. You finally allowed him to,
He can now.
To be fair,
Right.
he's always been on my good side because I love the original War of the Worlds broadcast, and he is my favorite Transformer.
What a career.
Sitwell's famous.
What a career! He did War of the Worlds and then Transformers, and he made a movie in the middle. I will say a little tidbit about myself real quick while I'm talking. I used to mix up Orson Welles and H.G. Wells.
That's totally understandable,
an
actually.
understandable
I get
mix-up.
that, yeah.
Especially because of War of the Worlds.
Right, yeah. That's totally fair.
I'm
Beck, what
coming
do you
in
think?
with a hot take.
Oh shit!
Because in cinematography and in editing and in all of that, I would say that it lives up to it. But I would say in the English major part of me, the part that looks into the backgrounds and the setting and everything and looks for the metaphor and the meaning in everything that they did, it didn't really live up to it.
I'd agree. I'd agree. I think the ending is kind of.
There were a lot of.
Yeah, I don't know if the twist lives up to the hype of the
Yeah,
whole movie.
there were a lot of little tidbits that, there were things that just dropped off. They said earlier in the movie when they were kind of just giving an overview of his life and, when he first died and they were giving, the reporter's overview, they spoke about his first wife and how she died in a car crash with his son. And we never see him respond to that. We never see anything about it. The last time we see his son is leaving the election in a taxi.
Man, you're right. I forgot he had
and
a
they
son.
never, ever even talk about him again.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, you can see the wife, but the son...
His wife leaves after the end of this, and they never talk about her again. And, it's more on the son, especially. Because this entire thing is about, getting back his youth. You'd think that his son and his youth would have more to do with it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it absolutely doesn't. And when I said about the snow globe, also, I feel like that was kind of a loose end. That, if that was a metaphor, I think that it wasn't a great one.
Yeah, if we're coming down to, I think it's just snow. That's not that interesting.
Better metaphors are cigarettes. That's a really weird reference. But if I may come to the defense of the movie on the kid thing, I don't know if how comfortable audiences would have been with a child death scene, like the morning of a child death scene.
I absolutely do not. Yeah, they should have had a mention of it, of mourning.
I feel like they're
I guess that's a good
they should have
point.
Either
mentioned
that
it,
or keep the kid in the movie.
I feel,
I mean, you can't just
Or
not
don't
kill him.
have him have a kid.
Yeah, why have him there just to kill him off later? And he didn't add anything to it. What was the point?
speaking
I
of
get
children,
that,
just to be,
in
just to be accurate to
1941 you can't have a 30-year-old that doesn't have kids. But also, do something with him or don't have him in there. And a lot of things were like that, where it was like, ooh, cool shot, what does it mean? In my opinion, I think that, from my perspective, everything should be working towards the story. And the fact that they had all of these really interesting, groundbreaking things with the cinematography, but it didn't mean anything. It had these amazing sweeping crane, shots, but what does that have to do with anything? The only thing that they did that actually meant anything with the cinematography is how they shot Orson Welles to be larger than everybody else. And that's about it.
he big boy.
Right, what do you think about that?
I mean, well, I think that's a good point about the wife and the son. I'll be honest, I guess I hadn't really thought about it because they're presented in such a perfunctory way.
Yeah.
Because it's his first wife is just so irrelevant to the bulk of the story. because basically the entire
They do
second
have a
half
little
of the
bit
movie.
with her.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. It kind of has, him starting in love and then being more and more dedicated to his work and less dedicated to her. She does have some amount of relevancy. But
True. Yeah.
no payoff. But no payoff.
But yeah, I would just say my only disagreement would be that I don't take it as much of a hit to the movie as sounds like.
That's
you
fair.
do.
And that's just kind of like, that's who I am, is I'm more, I'm a big story and metaphor and, thematic person.
It's almost as if this podcast is supposed to be us talking about our opinions.
Fuck that.
Well,
I'm right. Beck's wrong. Our listeners will agree.
Your
with me.
mom.
Yes. And if not, she doesn't get to see the grandson. So I think I'm safe.
Yeah, I don't think that there's going to be many people who agree with me, but I've got my take.
No,
I think it's a good point. I think you're definitely right.
I don't know if I'm like fully on board with you, but I do definitely believe what you're saying.
I don't think you're lying.
We did watch.
Beck, I think you're lying.
Beck, how dare you lie about Citizen Kane, the greatest movie ever made? It's in the 45 greatest movies of all time, according to the Vatican.
Maybe that's what our movie list should be. Just going down that list.
I'd be down for that.
Man, Detective
Is
Pikachu
Cats
better
on
be on
there?
there.
I was looking at a list of facts. It said ranked number 2 of greatest movies of all time. I'm like, all right, what's number 1? And it didn't say. I'm like, what's number 1?
Oh, what?
Apparently, the BBC has rated it like the greatest American film of all time, like 5 years in a row or something.
Yeah.
5 years in a row.
And then Tenet came out, and
Well, yeah, great. So it seems like we've decided mostly
Citizen
not
Kane
overrated.
is rated.
I think we need a big like Mythbuster rated. Like
I was thinking like a gong or
sizzle.
something like that.
Ooh, that'd be good. Yeah.
3 out of 4.
Wah, 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 wah.
Oh, The Godfather's number 1 on that list.
Yeah, yeah.
The top 10 are Godfather, Citizen Kane, Casablanca, Chinatown, Raging Bull, La Dolce Vita, The Godfather Part 2, Gone with the Wind, Some Like It Hot, and Singing in the Rain. I like how Godfather 1 and 2 are on that list.
Yeah, I mean,
Why-
well, Godfather 2 is like the greatest sequel in movie history. You gotta have
Why
both,
does
and
the
then
Vatican
Godfather
have
3 is
these
like...
takes?
I have to... That's entertainment. I didn't check Vatican.
Oh.
I was saying this list isn't the Vatican.
Yeah, no, that was entertainment. Vatican's list of films. Citizen Kane. It's under... So they have 3 sections. Religion, values, and art. Citizen Kane is number 1 in art.
Okay.
They also have Fantasia, Nosferatu, Stagecoach, Wizard of Oz, 2001: A Space Odyssey,
Hell yeah.
Metropolis.
That's a phenomenal movie. We stay in
I
it.
don't know. On the Waterfront,
Great movie.
It's a Wonderful Life,
Man,
1982's Gandhi, Schindler's List.
the Pope just dropping gems, huh?
Yeah.
Ben-Hur.
Firing off takes on Twitter.
Let's see if we can get him on. Let's see if we can get
Honestly,
him on. We'll have to
he
learn
seems like a great guy.
Roman or whatever he speaks.
Yeah,
If only
pretty
I
good
was
movie case.
Catholic.
Like if I were to assemble, like if somebody tasked me with assembling a list of like the 10 greatest movies ever made, mine would probably be pretty close to that, honestly.
All
Like,
Catholics have the Pope's number, and all evangelical Christians have Kirk Cameron's number.
Yeah, I mean, and he speaks directly to God,
Confirmed.
right? So
God loves Citizen Kane.
You heard it here first.
I have 2 more. Before I forget, I have 2 other facts I wanted to share. Before we end this, because this part alone has been like half an hour.
Yep.
I mean, sorry, an hour. I have 2 last facts
You've
I want
got
to say.
your work ahead of you with editing, but yeah.
Oh, I love editing. It's cool.
Yeah, good luck getting Ezra out of all this.
Spielberg actually bought. There were 3 rosebuds. 2 of them were burned for the scene. But the third one was actually bought by Spielberg for $60,000 and $60,500.
I feel like that's
not that much.
Definitely a steal. By like
To have
Spielberg's
Rosebud
time?
from Citizen Kane?
Yeah, that like I'd pay that. Like that's
Also,
crazy.
in like 2007, a Orson Welles' personal copy of the script was sold for like $70,000.
Wow.
I think it was. Also, the reason why I pointed this out while watching, Orson Welles was actually the last name in the credits.
Yeah.
Was because
'Cause
he
he was all the
wanted to
credits.
save the best for last.
Oh,
What a guy.
All right, I mean, what a jackass. But I mean, I guess he earned it. So.
But I mean, but he also wanted like that's why everyone had all the like the newcomers had like their own solo credit like with footage of them
That's a
because
good
he
point.
wanted to like represent these people. He like look at these phenomenal actors in my phenomenal film.
I thought it was going to be he was the last one because all the credits were him. So like he's the
Actually, in
last,
the beginning, where there's the title card with his name and like with Toland's name, if I remember correctly, it was unprecedented of having the director and the cinematographer on the same title card, but he wanted like to show that the cast and crew had equal rights in this movie.
Hell yeah.
So like he was
definitely
an
has
egotistical
the
asshole, but he
cinematographer.
cared about his crew. Except that dirty Mank who tried stealing all the credit.
All right, look.
I now know what my laugh looks like on an audio file because every time I laugh, it looks
Same.
the exact same.
I keep on trying to
Great.
make like
Any last
swords
thoughts?
with my voice.
I'm not looking at the audio file because I don't want to. I feel like that'd be
Yeah,
distracting.
it kind of is.
Only thoughts I have left are I really enjoyed this movie, and I'm glad that we sat down together to watch this movie. I'm even happier that I got to sit down with 3 of my best friends and watched it.
Gay.
Yeah.
And I will say that even though I was the one, the token overrated, I did enjoy watching the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was very good.
Yeah.
Just because the movie's overrated doesn't mean it's bad.
Yep.
We're not rating if the movie's bad or good. We're just saying if...
Yeah, it definitely.
That's
yeah.
not our job. Go to some other
It definitely has a
podcast,
crazy high
Danny's
rating.
mom.
So like. Yeah.
Thanks for watching us, Miss Araj.
Yeah, thanks for watching, Mom. I know
She's not
our
watching,
only
she is
viewer.
listening.
We always appreciate it. Please,
Audio medium. Yeah.
thanks for. I'm getting ready for TV. All right, I'm moving on from this already. And next episode's live.
Oh, God.
I make sure you rate and subscribe. I think you follow it.
Yeah.
Make sure you rate it five
And,
stars or whatever.
ring that
and then
bell.
in person, you can tell me what you actually think, and ring that bell.
And make sure
if there's
our
a bell. I'm not
podcast
sure.
is not overrated.
Make sure our podcast is not overrate our podcast. In person, you can tell me the actual rating.
Don't
but
underrate
in the
us.
rating. Don't, yeah. Come back next time where we're going to do
We're actually going to do
recommendation.
cats, guys. It's not...
See, I thought we were just going to end every podcast with just a fake movie.
That'd be pretty good. Next time is going to be cats. We're going to
Birth of
do
a
my
Nation
hot
is
take.
very
Birth of a
real
Nation's
and
real.
oops.
No, I mean, like,
Oh,
never mind.
okay.
Yeah.
What the
We're not
fuck
covering
is
it.
Birth of a Nation? Yeah, thanks for watching. I'm Vaughn.
I am back. And there are 2 other people.
I'm Brad.
I'm Danny.
And this is the Over Under Hype Machine. We'll see you next time.
Rated.